first sat down to outline this talk, I thought about a couple of things. The first pertained to myself, that according to some people, me being a queer female word of color talking about social justice represented something of a socio-political trope, and then I decided I didn't really care about that. The second pertained to you, that because I had been very generously given the opportunity to speak to you tonight, that some of you would potentially have to hear some of the very hard truths about the industry in which you work, your colleagues, your friends, your families, and perhaps even yourselves. However, the invitation I received very much falls in line with the topic that I'm presenting tonight. And every person in this room, with every talk and conference that they attend, indicates a willingness, even an eagerness, to learn and to grow and to develop as professionals and as people. So thank you so much for being here tonight. Hi, my name is Muse and Lystrala. I've been an avid video gamer for most of my life, since kindergarten really. I've been a musician for almost 30 years and a composer and songwriter for 13. In addition to several of the music projects I run, I am the director of Geek Musica, an ensemble that performs video game and film scores. It's super fun. You should totally come and see us sometime. Most of the works that we perform are works that I personally arrange for a number of different instruments. So my time at Geek Musica has led me to undertake a career in video game composition. I've always loved video game music, and a couple of years ago I decided this was a career goal I had to start composing for video games. So far, I've composed for 5 indie games via the Legendary Challenge, one of which I'm very excited to report will be undergoing further development this fall. So we're super excited about that. Composition is a very difficult field, as I'm sure you know, Amanda. Composing for video games is absolutely no exception. Poses pretty unique challenges to the creator, including extremely tight deadlines, consistently high levels of creativity, often with very short notice. But ever since I was a kid, I've kind of viewed my life as project, get the frack out of my way, I have something to prove. So this sort of work is really no exception. I will admit, I get a pretty smug sense of satisfaction when I prove people wrong. It's not one of my best qualities. So I want you to really look at me for a minute. Did anyone who knew me as a child think that I was going to grow up to be a classical musician? Probably not. An ensemble director? A video game composer? Almost certainly not. When I went to college to study classical music, most of the advice I received from instructors and professionals was not how I could grow as a singer and as a musician, but how hard it was going to be for me as a woman of color to make it. When I started Geek Musica, I had very little support, even from my friends. When I talked about wanting to be a video game composer, not one person that I spoke to expressed confidence that I would be able to do that. The color of my skin, in addition to being principally female presenting, has had a significant and dramatically life-affecting impact on the perception of other people where my abilities, intelligence, and drive are concerned. It is not really different from other people of color, other women, and other LGBTQA community members. But these perceptions do a great amount of harm, not just to me, but also to the people who hold them. I'm going to cite a couple of examples. So a bit of a disclaimer here. I want to make it clear that I try to run my ensemble in a very democratic fashion. Of course, I want the other members' input. Of course, I value their expertise, their skills, their knowledge. Of course, I want them to ask questions when they don't understand something, or if they have, a better idea for how we can appropriately execute the work that we're doing. Sometimes they know more than I do, and when that's the case, I always listen to them. But ultimately, I usually have to make the final call on the work that we do together, and I pretty much always meet with friction on this point where the male members of my ensemble have been concerned. Some years ago, I think it was about 3 years ago, I received audition materials in response to a call for musicians I posted from a fairly skillful male trumpet player. We didn't have a high brass player at the time. There were a lot of works I wanted to arrange to include the trumpet. So I responded to him, arranged an interview, and alongside my assistant director, who's also male, we went to interview him. I still get a little huffy when I tell this story, admittedly. So during the interview, despite the fact that I had introduced myself to him twice, first via email and then again in person, he seemed to have a lot of difficulty understanding that I was to be his boss. He asked us no less than 3 times during the interview who was in charge. And each time, both myself and my assistant director indicated me. He seemed puzzled and even a little disappointed each time, as though he just couldn't wrap his brain around this concept. It might be reasonable to assume that he mixed us up once or twice. Things happen, but in addition, he spent about 15 minutes talking really negatively about his mother. Like, who does that? Who talks negatively about one of their parents during a job interview? So on the way back to my assistant director's house, he said to me, I think that guy just doesn't like women. And I said to him, I think you're right about that. Ultimately, I had to decline him a job opportunity. So we both lost. I had to make do without a trumpet player, and he lost an opportunity to be part of a grant-funded, solidly booked, and if I do say so myself, fabulously nerdy ensemble. I hate firing people. It is the absolute worst part of my job, but I've had to do it, and every single person I've had to fire, with one exception, was male. Don't yell at me, but I had one ensemble member explicitly ignore directives that I gave him, nearly always behind my back. I had several ensemble members come to me and report this, so ultimately I had to let him go. Another, whom I didn't fire, but I would have had he not left to attend a different area school, publicly argued with me on a number of occasions, including at concerts, about the appropriate arranging or tonality of instruments with which he had no expertise when I did. Both of these men were extremely competent musicians, but neither of them felt that they had to respect what I said despite the fact that I was their boss. It is my opinion, based on my experiences with them in other professional and academic scenarios, that these men were unable or unwilling to respect my work because of how they had been trained to think about women, especially black women. It should be noted that I've never had this problem with other women who were part of my ensemble. It depresses me to have to admit that, but it would be a little archaic of me not to mention it. So with all that in mind, let's look at some data. So you might have to squint a little. It's not a great chart. So first, these intersecting fields, composition and gaming, are heavily dominated, not just by men, but by white men specifically. Most of them cis, gender binary identifying, and heterosexual. So BLS tends to categorize by job function rather than industry, but looking at this, you kind of get the idea. When it comes to creative or what some people call soft skill kind of work, like writing and art, you see a great deal of women working in those industries, even though it is still overwhelmingly white. But when you start examining music as a field, directorships, software development, very, very male. A very overwhelmingly white and male representation of those fields. In the UK, just 4% of game designers are of Black or Asian descent. In a survey that the IGDA did earlier this year, they interviewed around 1,000 people working in game development. 74% were cis males, 61% were white, 81% were heterosexual, 1% identified as Black, 4% identified as Hispanic or Latinx, 23% identified as female, 5% identified as trans or non-binary, 19% identified as non-heterosexual. If we compare these numbers to the demographics of people who actually play video games, we see a very different picture. 45% of all video game players are female. 65% of all consumers that identify as a member of the LGBTQA community identify as gamers. 81% of Asian Americans identify as Latinos. 71% of African Americans identify as the same, and Hispanic and Latinx Americans come in at 55%. The majority of each of these groups indicate that they strongly desire to see more representation of themselves in the games that they play. So what's wrong with this picture? So I want to focus a little bit to the overarching theme. I think the question we have to ask ourselves is what the real problem is. Sexism, I think, is too simple an answer. So is racism, although very obviously these are tremendously large contributing factors to why there's such a lack of diversity in the gaming industry, even now. For me personally, it comes down to three central factors. There is an overwhelming association of video game production with whiteness in cultures of color, especially among those of African and Latinx descent. Due no small part to the active and continued discrimination and violence, both physical and verbal, on the part of white people and all white or white-dominant organizations against those groups. It should also be noted that among some older people of color, there is a strong association of attending college or university with whiteness, which in turn leads them to discourage younger people of color from doing so. A contributing factor is the fear of debt, as there are far fewer people of color of wealth than among white people. Following on the heels of that last point, there's a dramatic gap between access to education and sports training for people of color, and to a lesser extent for women than there are for white people and for men. In no small part due to lack of access to financial resources, and also due to cultural attitudes based in both racism and gender bias that translate to gatekeeping, a term I'm sure most of us are pretty familiar with at this point, to prevent or discourage members of specific groups from pursuing or entering specific professions. Lastly, white people, particularly white men, have cultivated and grown a few response to the concept of equality, fearing that it will result in them being treated poorly. It should also be noted that the LGBTQA community is no exception to any of this. Racism, sexism, misogyny, etc. are all problems in that community and are frequently discussed. I think the last is really the most difficult to dissect intellectually. Like, why would white people fear an equal society? Why would they believe that equality would result in anyone being treated badly? But the concept, I think, of giving up any sort of power is a fear-inducing one, even when that power obviously results in a huge array of life-impacting and harmful behaviors and policies. White people have been trained by those in power for generations to fear this kind of change, because power lies in fear, and racism as a structure, sexism as a structure, homophobia as a structure serves people in power. Those people want to stay there, very obviously. So they perpetuate those structures in order to keep themselves where they are. To quote the immortal Jane Elliott, whose work I definitely suggest you check out if you haven't already, treating works. It's worked for a very long time. Equality, to kind of present the overarching theme again, equality is practical. Societies that are more equal enjoy the following benefits: lower prevalence of mental illness, greater child welfare, health and social problems are lessened, educational scores and achievements are higher, fewer people drop out of school, homicide rates are lower, drug use is less prevalent, imprisonment rate is lower, children experience less conflict, social mobility is higher, community trust is higher, and the usage of social welfare programs is less prevalent. There are, of course, a great deal more benefits to living in a more equal society. But what it comes down to is this: equality creates an environment in which all or nearly all people are able to cultivate their personal interests, their skills, and talents to contribute meaningfully to their communities. That brings us full circle back to why justice and the pursuit of equality is so pragmatic. It is applicable to every aspect of our society, every profession, every industry. In my opinion, white people, and in particular white men, are of the false opinion that in order for other groups to gain, they have to lose something, that they have to give up something, when nothing could be further from the truth. We don't have to place white citizens on a lower ground to make things more fair. We have to raise other groups up to where those people are, so that all people have the opportunity to shape our world with their ideas and their skills and their talents. This is a very good example of compromise versus collaboration. Just on a more societal level, treating our interpersonal relationships on a macro kind of scale. So how is equality pragmatic to gaming or any other industry? I think the answer is simpler than answering some of the questions I've asked during my time with you. The key to building anything, to maintaining and growing anything, is appropriate resource acquisition and management. People are incredible resources. Gaming is a marvelous, wondrous, many-faceted industry. It requires a plethora of different people with different skills. And the more people we have contributing their skills and their knowledge, the more we can achieve as an industry and as a community. That means opening up our doors to as many people as want to do this work as possible, ensuring that they have access to the education that they need to gain the skills necessary to work in the gaming industry, ensuring that we cultivate their development both personally and professionally, and welcoming them into our companies, our gaming studios, our game jams, our game events like this one. It should, of course, be noted that the issues I'm discussing are tremendous. They affect everyone. They are truly macro. It will take a lot of work and time to ensure that things like access to education, reduction and elimination of poverty, and all the other work that needs to be done to ensure a more equal society. But in doing that work, not just as game developers, but as citizens, we can really only be helping ourselves for all the reasons that I just mentioned. It will very obviously not be easy. Nothing worth doing ever is. Where we're trying to get to in terms of an equal society will likely occur long after most of us are gone. But what we can do now is work to make things better. And little by little, we can improve our society to everyone's mutual benefit. We can build amazing games that change and improve people's lives. We can build games that tell stories. We can build games that teach people skills or improve certain brain functions. And we can build games that provide fun and relaxation. So with that, I would like to give you some terrific examples of women, people of color, and LGBTQIA community members that are making amazing contributions to the video gaming industry. Well, there we go. I love this person, just for posterity. I had the great privilege of working with Arzu back when I used to model for the life drawing class at Vicarious Visions. She was the facilitator of that class. She is an extraordinarily skilled artist of Middle Eastern descent. And she's been at AV for close to 7 years now, with a year and a half as senior concept artist under her belt so far. Arzu has worked on a very broad range of titles for Vicarious Visions, and her remarkable skills have been absolutely foundational in helping these amazing games come to life, including Destiny. Have you played Destiny? You do? Okay, cool. Then you've seen her art. Jeb Havens has been one of the most outspoken LGBTQA game devs in the history of American gaming. He has routinely challenged gaming's lack of representation where LGBTQA characters are concerned, as well as game developers. Subsequently is regarded as something of a champion for this kind of representation in video games. Jeb has been a game designer for almost a decade and a half. He has worked with some of the biggest names in digital media, including Marvel, Disney, EA, and Sony. Jeb used to work right here in the capital region at First Playable. So kind of little claim to fame there. Lystrala is one of the gaming industry's brightest art stars. She is currently a lead artist at Ubisoft. I've played a lot of Ubisoft games. She does really amazing work. She has contributed to some of the gaming industry's most notable titles, including The Simpsons, Dante's Inferno, and The Sims 4. I love The Sims 4. Anybody else? Yes, The Sims are amazing. Lisette is of African American descent, and she specializes in, yes?
DLC videos.
Yes, absolutely. She specializes in special effects, character modeling, and texture painting. Lisette has utilized her career as a platform to inform other African Americans about the gaming industry, developers of African American descent working in gaming, and the many career possibilities that exist for African American youth interested in the gaming industry. Jamar Peter is one of my favorite people. He has been an artist since childhood. While he did not receive a formal education in art, which is not the most common thing in this industry, he worked exceptionally hard to develop his artistic skills through practice and self-education, lots of reading, lots of studying other artists. So he rose to prominence as a concept artist, and he was formerly a senior concept artist at Blizzard. Principally, he worked on their Hearthstone team. Demoro is also of African American descent and is currently working towards establishing a new game studio called Second Dinner. Hector Tang is one of Blizzard's brightest new stars. His area of specialization is human resources, and he served a vital role at Blizzard, connecting up-and-coming college graduates to internships and new positions at Blizzard. Of Asian American descent, he assists new graduates in adapting to their new roles at Blizzard and is constantly working to develop new programs and channels of communication to expand the company and create new roles within it. These are particularly notable platforms that I definitely suggest you check out. Each of these is a platform dedicated to calling attention to the work of the respective demographics that they are about. I've speluned around them a little bit, and there's some really inspiring stuff in there. There are, all these people just doing really incredible work, building all these amazing games. So definitely have a look. A conversation I had not too long ago with another professional involved the discussion of diverse candidates being the future of gaming. People of color, women of color, members of the LGBTQA community. Now is the time for us to start working for real equality in industries that need it the most, so that we can ensure fresh infusions to keep the future of gaming alive and evolving. Thank you. Yes.
Sorry, that this was Jeff. What was his name?
Jeff Havens.
Jeff Havens.
Yes.
Thank you.
Of course. Yeah.
You mentioned The Sims. We talked about The Sims before in Game Club, and I mentioned how The Sims was one of the first games that had representations of same-sex couples. And recently, The Sims 4 added trans options for character creation, which is almost unheard of in a mainstream gaming platform. So
Definitely. I was really happy about that, honestly.
And I think those type of inclusions encourage people who are gamers to be excited about, more excited about games to the point where they might feel that they can be a part of the industry because they feel like they would be accepted and included.
No, absolutely. There are a lot of people who are already doing this sort of work because they understand what we've just been talking about. They understand that expanding the gaming industry to include as many people as possible is the key to continuing it as an industry. Anyone else? Sarah.
I have two questions, technically speaking. So
Of course.
I guess I'll be able to follow that.
Okay.
How does one outreach to, underrepresented minorities?
the best thing is just to talk to people about what you do. You know, when I talk to other people of color about the work that I do, about that I run this ensemble, that I'm working towards becoming a video game composer, they think it's the most awesome thing you've ever heard. And usually they'll ask me questions like, how do you acquire these skills? Where did you study, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm actually really best friends with my assistant director. And some time ago we were talking about how the most important contributions sometimes that we can make to social justice happen around your kitchen table, just by talking about things. Word of mouth is still the most powerful advertisement. So, I mean, obviously, it's beneficial to join online platforms, forums, etc. There are a ton of them exist, like the ones I just mentioned. But the best thing you can do is just talk to people. Amanda.
Me?
Yes, you. I think you have your hand up.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Just making sure. I was wondering if there's some platforms. Are they websites or are they Twitter?
Mostly. I mean, there's a lot of people on Twitter.
Is the best way to get to you the list of platforms? Is that a list of websites?
We'll go back.
What's a platform? Because a platform to me is like Nintendo.
Legit. No, she's not wrong. Mostly websites, forums, etc. When I use the term platform very loosely, as we tend to do in activism.
I want to go asking where I can find Black game developers, because that's not. Yes. So there's like a website for Black game developers, or are you saying that's a platform like what is the action for this slide?
Can I take a picture of this? Absolutely.
Because like Queer Place Games, that sounds like a website.
Yes, all of these are websites.
But there's spaces. That's confusing.
I know. I'll be real. I was a little lazy and I copy pasted a lot. But no, all these are websites.
Okay. Awesome.
So, yeah, of course. What else? Yes.
So,
Remind me of your name. I'm sorry.
Nate. I'm a student.
Yes.
So I'm an undergrad music student over at Union College. I'm also queer and of Filipino descent, and I hope to pursue a career in game audio and sound design. And I guess my question is, how can I, at this sort of early stage of my career, begin to take action steps to move the industry or my little portion of it in a better direction?
Aside from the aforementioned, just talking to people, I think there's probably a couple bits of advice I can give you. Talk to some of the people in this room about your goals. Get involved with the local gaming community. One of the other things I really love about this area is the gaming community here is already so diverse. There's so many different kinds of people. So it's not a terrible place to kind of get a start doing that sort of thing. Obviously, there are going to be people that discourage you. Do not listen. Do not listen. If anybody says you can't do that because you're X, I don't want to say flip them off, but I mean, if you did that, I would not condone it. But I think the real key is involvement and just really actively applying yourself to your craft. In my career, well, that's kind of a heavy phrase. In my career, I try to abide by two bits of advice that I've learned from working with other women and other minorities. Stay in your game, and there will come a day where you don't hire them. And be so good that they cannot ignore you. I think that second is probably the most important bit of advice that I could offer to anybody wanting to work in this industry, particularly if you're a member of a disadvantaged group, because we have to work so much harder to get recognized. And it'll take a lot of time. You will definitely meet with some resistance, but don't give up on it. Do not let people discourage you. And listen to the people that are encouraging you. There's a lot of people in this room that have encouraged me in the work that I do. So try to pay more attention to them. There will be a lot of tears, so maybe that's why. What else? Yeah.
From adjusting our job descriptions things are to moving names off of resumes. What are some resources, checklists, etc., to improve the hiring process for a more diverse audience? I think, I remember, for example, an anecdote where they discovered that one of the easiest ways to get more women to be hired than musicians is outright have a blind
auditions, yes. Those have become very popular in classical music. It's working.
So I'm asking for similar, very simple tactics like that. Well, obviously, any other good ideas as well to really shift the scale to a more equal ground for everyone.
Gotcha. Just a sec, Alana. I think after allowing for the fact that I am not an expert in resume building, I think it's important to really carefully curate the kind of work that you want to do, that you have done. This is a little bit meta. I'm thinking back to a commencement speech that I watched years ago by Neil Gaiman. I love Neil Gaiman so much. But he talked about, what if it doesn't get you closer to the mountain, don't do it. Anything that gets you closer to the mountain that you're trying to climb is worth doing. So, aside from just constructing a decent resume, think very carefully about the skills you have and how you can apply them to the work that you want to do. And keep a list of references. Make it a long list, as long as humanly possible. And a lot of that really just comes down to working hard and then, impressing at least a few people along the way. But, coming back to be so good they can't ignore you, if you're good at what you do, there will be at least a few people who are willing to recommend you for the job.
I guess I meant it more from a recruiter's perspective.
I don't know anything about that arena. I cannot help you. Sorry. One sec. Alana, say my question.
I was actually thinking about that very idea. Because when I graduated from college, I was looking for a job in the games industry. And it seems, this was early 2000s, so maybe things have gotten easier nowadays, but it seems like if you're starting from a point where the majority of people in the industry were male, and the criteria for getting hired for most new jobs is having years of experience, it kind of shuts out people who aren't already in the system because they can't get the experience to get the job. Also the same thing with needing lots of expensive education. It does shut out people who either just don't have the family income. I went to state school, so maybe I would have been lower on the list than somebody who went to the Ivy League school or something in terms of getting an interview or something. So just having those stringent requirements that tend to favor white people or males, either having already experience, which keeps those numbers similar to what they are, or requiring really expensive education, I think are two ways that kind of already shut people out who are not as privileged.
Absolutely. And those are, one second, Brian, those are issues relating to what we've been talking about in here. I never went to private school. I've never been to an Ivy League. I've gone to state colleges my whole life. But I found that cultivating skills outside the classroom has really been very key to my own personal success. I take classes on Coursera, I read a lot, and you will. It's a huge obstacle. There's kind of no point in denying it. It is a huge obstacle. But sort of that's a problem that affects everybody, every industry. People who already have advantages are going to have the easiest time of it, regardless of what industry they enter. You know, people who are white, people who are male, people who are cis, people who are wealthy. So the best thing for us to do is two things, I think, really, is continue fighting for the kind of societal change that allows everybody equal access to opportunity and education, and make your own way. You know, is start your own companies, start your own projects, start your own ensembles. It doesn't matter what you want to do. I mean, I'll be the first to admit I don't make a huge chunk of money running Geek Musica. But we've been around for 3 years. We've been in paper. We've gotten grant funding. It's been a bit of a slog, but it's worth it. Like, we did this together, and like none of us have more than a bachelor's degree. All of us went to state schools, but we're out here doing it. So I think really that's the best advice I have to offer, is use what you have to make a new path and show people what you're capable of. And sometimes doing that can lead you to new opportunities.
To perfectly go with the exact last thing that you said there, one of the best pieces of advice I got when I was still in school was when there was like, you must have 4 years of experience. Well, if you were in school for 4 years, that's 4 years of experience. Unless they specifically say 4 years of industry experience, then it's a little bit different. But like, keep in mind all the experience you have that may not be what you think it is. And then the other thing too is men statistically more often apply to jobs that they don't actually fit all the requirements for than women. So that's been the thing for me, trying to get over like my insecurity about that and like doing that myself. But yes, it's looking at the thing you can consider. And so I guess we'll also flip that around for Carl's question, being more open about what things are actually requirements versus just like, you be nice to people.
Absolutely. And that you bring up a very valid point. It is totally acceptable to apply for jobs that you're not sure you're going to get. It is okay to do that. Sometimes you might be surprised you get the job. That has happened to me personally. I've applied for jobs like, I'm kind of qualified to do this. Let's put it in a resume, and bam. So sometimes it happens. Sometimes you get lucky. I remember years ago when I was first starting when I was graduating from high school, I got some really good advice about how to pick colleges. Pick like two that you don't have a snowball's chance of getting into. Pick two that are kind of in the middle, or maybe 3, and pick 1 or 2 that you're absolutely guaranteed entry. I don't see why we shouldn't apply that same principle to jobs. Yes, I totally skipped over you, I'm sorry.
What I was going to add was at GC this year, I was at the parenting roundtable because which is a really small minority, being a woman, new mother in games and trying to stay in games. And so what was wonderful is the recruiter for WB California, it's LA or San Francisco, whatever. So what she was telling the group was that you have to remember that you're looking yes, you're looking for a job, but it's your career, and you want to know, you want to be planning where you want to be. So while it's great for this person with a job telling you, well, just go find another job, the point is that there are studios right now that are open to having people who have flex time, because it's not just people with babies, it's also people who have old parents or sick family members. These people need to be accommodated for. They're very skilled and talented people, and they're leading up the industry because the industry doesn't take care of them. And there's people who are very skilled and highly technical who are minorities, and they get looked over because that's what our society is doing right now. And so the recruiter's perspective is that it's her job to make sure that people who are high quality candidates are actually getting into their system. And she has had to go and tell people, because obviously when you have a hiring scheme, right, the recruiter, whoever sets you up, but your interviews are with people you will be working with. And those people haven't been trained in, how to actually care about the quality of people that they're bringing in as much as the recruiter has. So the recruiter is really taking it upon, it's really the recruiter make sure that they're hiring appropriately. And then on top of that, it's your job to realize that you should be looking for companies that actually give a damn about you. Because if you go and work for an awesome company and they produce a good product and they succeed, then people are going to start following what they're doing. And I think the reason why people are starting to look at this now, like the AAA, industry, I mean, they always have, but I think there's a lot more answers now because of the rise of independent game development and kind of everyone can make games now. It's very
There's more choices.
Like there's a lot more choices, a lot more diversity in games because it's more accessible from everyone's perspective and from the platform holders, like like it's like Nintendo and PlayStation, like Sony, they can't afford to just listen to what EA and Activision are doing anymore. They have to be able to look at what really indie developers are doing. So I think either looking at companies that are large that are willing to accept diversity, and I think we're supposed to ask them about what they do for that. Good luck. But, trying to figure out, is it diverse, are you going to be comfortable there? Is that somewhere where you want to, put your cards in at this point? And that's, I think, what makes the game industry very challenging is that you're lucky because everyone's trying to get in this position, so you should feel lucky that we're interviewing you. So you have to get beyond that and realize that you have skills and you can kick ass, and if they don't see that, well, that's their loss.
Exactly. But to return to your question, Tara, I think on the skill inventory kind of thing, do a skill inventory. Figure out what you actually know how to do. I mean, principally, I'm a musician. But there's a lot of things I can do. I can do creative writing. I can do technical writing. I can paint. I can teach. I can tutor. There's like a laundry list of things that I know how to do and that I do professionally. So yeah, it's really totally okay to be a Renaissance kind of person.
Renaissance.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, be a skillful person. Be a person that they are reluctant to do without, which is easier said than done, obviously, but point stands, I guess. Anyone else? Come on, let's do something fun.
What's your favorite game?
Oh, Brian.
Within the past year, just maybe that.
Wow, no, this really helps. I have 3 favorite games. I really can't choose between them. I really love Stardew Valley.
Yes!
So much. I love Final Fantasy X. And I love World of Warcraft.
What is your least favorite Final Fantasy game?
7.
Thank you. Thank you.
No, thank you. I mean, 8 was hard, but I do screw 7, I think. Anyone else? Yeah.
So the list of names you had, are they people it's a 2-part question.
Yeah.
One is, when are you composing this into some kind of book or website? And then the actual real question is, how did you choose those people among all of the awesome people?
It was not easy.
Yeah,
I didn't really want to overwhelm people with examples, so curating them was a little bit difficult. And also, too, what made it harder is, how few of us there really are working in this industry. It made it extraordinarily difficult to find, examples of women, especially women of color and LGBTQA game devs that are, especially ones in positions of authority or directorship. So that made it really hard. Obviously in Arzu's case, I'm familiar with her work. I've worked with her personally. She's fantastic. She's local. But the others I think were a little bit harder because I didn't obviously don't want to overwhelm the list with the dudes, but there's so many men in gaming. If you look at a comparison even just between black men and black women working in gaming, there's way more black men working in gaming than Black women. It's just kind of a case in point. So it's definitely hard, but I tried to offer examples that I felt were inspiring and, in people who were contributing really meaningfully to the development of gaming.
What was that New York City convention that specifically highlighted game developers, people of color?
Yeah, those were right.
Hey, we were talking about that.
Yeah, I think that's a color. I think that's what it was called.
I gotta go look at that.
Apparently it's amazing. And apparently they have the whole, the boyfriend in there.
I was so sad.
Stab, like a stab.
It's New York City. It's something that I forgot about.
Did you have something else or you just played with your hair?
Yeah, we're just thinking about, when you showed us statistics, how women are primarily put in these RRC, visual, auditory, they get into those jobs more often than STEM type of jobs, like
Absolutely.
programming and design and stuff. And I think that's changing in terms of younger generations, in terms of their attitudes as far as what women and men can do. They see it more as equal, but
It's funny that you should say that.
I think it's going to take a while to actually infiltrate the jobs industry.
The number of women in STEM is actually shrinking, which I do not find encouraging at all. I think it's, it was growing for a while, but now it's shrinking again. I think a lot of women just don't want to put themselves through, what they're inevitably going to face. And like a lot of women I talk to that work in the gaming industry had to think very carefully about what kind of abuse that they were inevitably going to face, especially other people of color, other LGBTQA folks. If you are non-male, non-white, non-cis, non-het, and you are not emotionally resilient, you're gonna have a hard time. And you might just decide to forego the whole thing and do something else that might not make you as happy, professionally speaking, but will definitely result in less grief, less depression, et cetera, et cetera. The rate of depression in the gaming industry is perhaps not surprisingly very high. I don't think that's a coincidence at all. And I imagine, lacking statistics, of course, but just based on the number of people I know that are minorities or women that work in gaming and other male-dominated industries, every single one of them I know goes to therapy, takes meds, et cetera, and talks a lot about depression. So I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but you get the idea. So it's not all fun and games. But at the same time, how else are we going to fix it except by fighting it, Like, I worked with Bahua at the last Lystrala challenge, and almost the entire team is female. And it was freaking awesome. It was unlike any other project that I've ever worked on because, I didn't have to worry about, some guy coming up and micromanaging the work that I was doing or being unnecessarily critical. It was just, this group of women and one very notable gentleman, of course. Just working together and encouraging each other and, helping with constructive criticism. So it was a very different kind of mood, a very different kind of vibe. I kind of agree with that. So I think that those are really the kinds of environments that we should be trying to create, whether or not we work for Blizzard or Activision or maybe just creating those kinds of environments where people can thrive. Make sense? I know, very rambling. Yeah.
I have one more personal story I want to mention.
Yeah, that's kind of.
My mom was the first female
Amazing.
And that was, she started at the end of the 80s, but she talked to me a lot about how she had to basically be better, at least as good as all of them. They didn't like have Western standards for her. She really had to be on top. She had to deal with the abuse and be on top of them.
Absolutely.
And she did that for like 21 years. She didn't get hit by someone, so she switched to our office for a back injury. It's a really tough job, and when you add on top of that, I know that working in the industry must be tough in terms of hours. And, like she works like a 24-hour shift. And she sleeps there at work, and she wakes up at alarm or something. So I know the dance industry also is very stressful at times with long hours. And if you add on top of that the harassment and stuff, it just kind of screams how a lot of people just don't even bother. Yep. Because you're running a high stress work environment plus an unfriendly social environment.
Or even hostile in some cases. I'm sorry, I totally
I had something to say about exactly this.
Yeah.
Which is that when I was going through high school, my dad wanted me to be an engineer. Because they make a lot of money, and you're not doing physical labor. My dad worked in construction and wanted me to do something with my mind. And my experience taking pre-engineering courses in high school was thus. I took design and drawing for production and engineering, which was essentially an honors class in my freshman year, and I was the only girl in the class. As the only girl in the class, I was ripped on every single day for being the only girl in the class. The only Puerto Rican kid in the class got ripped on every single day for being the only Puerto Rican kid in the class. We had 2 Muslim kids in our class, and they got left alone, I think, because they were mostly very quiet, but I'm sure if they had ever spoken up at all, they would have been ripped on for being the only Muslim kids in class. The rest of the class was white dudes. So that kind of sucked. Then I went on to the next year, I took principles of engineering, and it was a partner-based class. I had 3 partners. My first partner contributed nothing to our project, cracked kitchen jokes every single day, despite the fact that his summer job was working in a kitchen, and my summer job was pouring concrete, building swimming pools, and putting up fences with my father. And he still had living along with the kitchen jokes every single day. He contributed nothing to the project at all until he realized that he was going to fail. He contributed nothing to the project and said, I'll finish it, let me finish it. And stupid me, I let him finish it. He dismantled everything that I built, put it back together with material that was not approved for the project that we were working on, and did it at like 2 in the morning, so the thing fell apart. It was a bridge, we were building a bridge. We were supposed to just use wood and wood glue. We put it together with rubber cement, and it fell apart. Should have held over 100 pounds, held like 30. Back to my grade. Second partner I had was a woman. Everything went fine. Everything was great. It was a joy. Third partner I had, another guy. This guy seems good, right? Seemed like he was going to be a good project partner. We talked, we had a cool conversation, we laid out a plan. Go home, go back to class the next day. He did the whole project. Won't let me touch it. Won't let me touch it. Don't ever be those 2 project partners that I've had. That was when I really had to take a good hard look and go, these are people I'm going to be working with. It wasn't the work. I wasn't in love with engineering,
Right.
but I would have done it because it would have been a living.
Right.
But I had to look at the people around me and go, I hate everyone in this room. These are like 2 people, I don't want to work with them. So when you're thinking about how to encourage diversity in this industry, it's as simple as just don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Just don't be a dick.
Take note.
Yes. So really,
Especially privileged folk in the room, definitely take note.
because you know what? I went on to college and I double majored in math and music at UNC for anecdotes.
That's awesome.
And I was very often the only woman in the room in a lot of my music classes, and no one was a dick. And it was awesome. It was a really great empowering experience. A lot of my teachers were women. A lot of the teachers there, actually the majority of the music department was women, and there was 1 male teacher there. So
That's fantastic.
just
Where did you study? At Union?
Sorry?
Where did you study?
Union College was that's where my program grad. It's that simple. Just don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick.
It's not scary being the only woman in the room when no one's being a dick.
Absolutely. You know, I'm thinking back to theory too, when I was studying music at SUNY Schenectady. And I'm one of those people that asks a lot of questions in the classroom because I like to understand things. If I don't understand something, we're like, hey, prof, help. I don't even remember what my question was about. Like a lot of people in that theory class were men. I think about a third of the class was female. Most of the men in the room were intent on becoming composers or songwriters, and kind of to return to the whole composition being a male dominated field. It's like, hey, this is happening right in front of my face. So I asked the professor a question, and one of the male students actually laughed. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So my professor, who is a dude, and he is awesome, he looked pretty sharply at the student who had laughed, and he said, you know, only stupid people don't ask questions in my class. And I'm just like, thank you, Mr. Evans, for being a feminist right then. So he's just like, here, I'll outline this for you. So he goes into the board and kind of starts, explaining, the answer to my question. And he's just like, did anybody else have some confusion about this? Like a third of the class raised their hands, of course. But to return to the whole concept of smug satisfaction, I got a B+ in my class, and the kid who laughed at me got a B-. So he finished his degree, but he's going to have to retake theory 2 again because D's do not transfer. So, a little bit of dream. Wow.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to. I had a similar experience in high school, but it was almost the opposite because, so I'm more geared towards creative pursuits, writing. I enjoy painting, I enjoy art. Numbers, I see numbers and I just I don't get it. I just don't get it.
See, I love math. I just don't.
I envy those who love math, and I envy those who do math and music. Felicia Day also majored in both, and she's brilliant. In math and music, she played the violin professionally. So my experience in high school, I wanted to get into English honors. I loved English. I wanted to read. I wanted to read Pictures in the Rocket genre. I don't know why. Eventually, I did. But I wanted to read all these great books. My guidance counselor said, "I think you should be in classes for people more like you." And I'm like, "More like me?" And they're like, "Yeah, math, science, because I was Indian." And it was very much.
I got that.
What? I had all straight A's. I had all straight A's in English. I had horrible scores in math. I think you should be in classes almost quote unquote with your own girl. And that drove me. I suffered from depression throughout high school, and I didn't register to me until after college that she was being racist. And because I internalized it, and I told myself I'm just not good enough. But I got a master's in English Lit, and I was like, that's hard, so I'm like, thank you. And so, that's awesome. And even my dad, I told him years later, he's like, I'm gonna find her. I'm like, no, Dad, 27, please let it go. But yeah, no, it was a racial expectation of me in that I should be more math focused. I should be an engineer because I'm Indian. And that almost, I was born and raised in this country, but I have no comprehension of the English language machine, so I don't. It was first of all, even if you weren't born and raised in this country, you can absolutely have full comprehension. I don't know. But yeah, that's what I dealt with. So it was very interesting. And she was a woman, it was just pure racism.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
I think throughout the entirety of my education, I've had maybe. I can count on one hand the number of professors I've had who actually actively encouraged me to pursue a career in music. One of them was my voice teacher at SUNY Schenectady, God bless her. We did have a couple of conversations about the challenges of people of color face, but she never said to me, I really think you should maybe think about a career in education or do something a little more standard. No, she was just like the best you can do is just continue training, and if it was her that taught me, be so good they can for you. So she was very about, especially about advancing other women in the music industry. She's an incredible scholar. Every other professor that taught me at Schenectady has a master's degree or higher. She is so good that the dean at the time, who was retired, since hired her with only a bachelor's degree. She's that good. She's really good. So I listened to her when she talked, and she was very, very encouraging to me. As was my theory professor. We talked about wanting to go into composition. He's like, well, it's really hard work, but I mean, you always do great in your projects, you get good grades in my class, let me know if you need any help. But aside from those two, I think during my college experience, aside from Dean, nobody really paid a lot of attention to what I was doing, I guess. But it is what it is. And I still get references from those two professors like all the time. So, kind of cool. Alright, yeah.
I'm trying to think of this without giving the wrong impression.
No, let's have it.
Okay, so definitely in regards to the story about how the number of women being employed in the STEM industry is, to me, that's incredibly impressive to hear. I share your sentiment on that. Something that I was thinking about, and I hope is not dismissing anything what you said throughout this entire presentation, is the fact that a lot of these startup cultures, which obviously as of today is very tech focused, is highly, at least you get the input, you get the image that is highly competitive. It is often a shadow match in saying that, hey, my product is the best.
Right.
And so I'm wondering, one, if that contributes to the lopsidedness. Obviously, it's not the only factor, but I wonder if that is one of the contributions because of it. And how we can reduce, because I think nobody's going to complain about the fact that startups is a general good. But how can we make it so that when we're encouraging people to start their own business or encouraging people to start their own project, that they're not overwhelmed by this concept of competitiveness, this concept of, you'll be playing against all these other major players, which ironically, if you were to talk to an actual startup like Horses, they'll say, no, don't try competing with anyone, kind of thing. But yeah, something like that. I'm wondering if these are contributing factors, and if so, how can we reduce them?
I think I may actually have an answer for this. I may actually have an answer for this. I think that, speaking as a woman, not to discount the other groups of which I am a member, but as a woman, we are not trained to be competitive when we're girls. Boys frequently are. They are taught to compete with one another. They are taught to try to best one another. I mean, I grew up in sort of an unusual household. I grew up in a single-parent, all-female household. My mother served in the military. She was a nurse for 15 years. So my mother had a fairly well-honed sense of competition, especially after her time in the Army. Because, when you go back 30, 40 years, there's a lot more women in the military now, but super, super male dominant. So yeah, I grew up with a pretty healthy sense of competition, but I find that is not common among other women that I work with. I don't necessarily think, however, that competitiveness is altogether healthy. It is if it's in good sport. Obviously, I don't know about any of y'all, but I play sports. I like cheating things, and sometimes that involves that's okay. Sometimes that involves an element of competition, but when you're talking about work, competitiveness really creates kind of a toxic work environment. And I feel like the only person you should really be competing with is yourself. The only company you should be competing with is your own company, consistently trying to evolve what it is that you're doing. But I think that to solve that problem, we have to start with the concept of toxic masculinity. Because when I think about toxic masculinity, competitiveness immediately comes to mind. Violence, verbal abuse, all this sort of thing. And I've often found working with men that have, especially white men, that have that sense. They are very, very concerned with being the best, i.e. better than everyone else. It's not very constructive. So it's sort of a more macro issue, I think, that has yet to be resolved. I mean, obviously there are ongoing discussions about, the concept of toxic masculinity, how it hurts everybody, not just men, especially not just white men. But I think it's an issue that we're gonna spend a lot of time working to resolve. That said, I think that, in my experience, positivity can really do a lot of good. And if you're just working to produce the best thing that you can possibly produce, people will notice. It might take a while, but they'll notice. Yeah.
Just another personal observation. Competitiveness in women is not rewarded.
No, it is not ever.
My father is very feminist. Like I said, he wanted to be an engineer. He encouraged me to be super competitive. It led to a really miserable school experience. It's not attractive in women to be competitive the way it's considered to be attractive in men. And I don't just mean attractive in terms of like, oh, I never had a boyfriend. I did. I was intimidated. I found out later that part of why I never. Yeah, I was very intimidated. But healthy competitive. Like I was ranked in I was fourth in my class or something. I was way up there.
It's amazing.
And that drive to be that good, a lot of guys had that, and it was like, yeah, good for you.
Good for you. But when you did it,
no. It was not. No, it was
completely double standard. Absolutely.
You're not friendly enough. You're not. I can't even count how many times I was told I wasn't friendly enough. I was too loud. I was too,
too
confrontational, too aggressive. In contrast, lack of competitiveness in men is severely punished as well.
Absolutely. Stop acting like a woman. Don't be such a sissy, etc.
Sensitivity in men is really not valued, even though it leads to some incredible creativity. And some of the most amazing composers that I know are men, and they're straight men, and they're cis men, and they're very in touch with their feelings, and they were never rewarded for that either.
Absolutely.
So
I was talking with my therapist a couple of weeks ago about exactly what you're talking about the dichotomy between, how women behave and how men behave. And, I said to her, when men do this, when men work towards achievement, when men work towards excellence, when men try to, exceed the standards that they've set for themselves previously, when men are confident, when they are, trained well, when they present themselves with confidence, totally normal. When I do it, nah, and that has really affected just about every relationship I've ever had, not necessarily just romantic relationships, although that's where it's manifested the most. Kind of unsurprisingly, but it's manifested in friendships that I've had as well, even in professional relationships, occasionally even in academic relationships that I've had. Because when a woman acts like a man, she's bossy, she's, expletive deleted, she's mean, she's controlling. When a man does it, it's part of the course. Yeah, absolutely.
He's a leader who takes charge.
Exactly. But when a woman does it, especially a woman of color, especially black women, no, you're an angry black woman and you want nothing to do. So,
I'm getting into the weeds here.
Go for it.
But I feel like there's one thing that women women are encouraged to be competitive with athletics, and in my culture and in my family was body image. That you need to look, so we see it everywhere, we see it in our media, if you don't look a certain way in an attractiveness to men, then you're not valued. So
It's not even that, it's attractive to other women.
to other women, like, you have to, so like, it's like the competitors, you're gonna be skinnier than that girl, you're gonna be taller, you have to, like, I can't change my height, I'm sorry.
Right. You're right about that is the one thing we are taught to compete for as women. We are taught to compete for male attention.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether or not we even like men, which is kind of silly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a pervasive societal problem. We just, keep fighting a good fight, I guess.
A lot of stuff you guys can talk about, I can definitely attest to from my experiences. Like, I'm a white, considered a white guy, which I honestly don't like very much. But I'm more artistic and big and feminine than strong and masculine. And I have had an experience where I experienced toxic masculinity a bit. In college, I was part of a group that did volunteer work for different things, and one of the jobs we did was helping to put up decorations for the Albany's Washington Park lights in the park for Christmas.
That sounds super fun.
And for that, I mainly helped out with putting up decorations, like decorating the Christmas trees, making everything look pretty, but the whole thing was actually run by a guy, and he kept trying to drag out what he considered more manly jobs, like carrying heavy stuff or throwing out decorations they thought weren't necessary. The closest thing I did was just carrying just one thing of wire for the light mates and going through the trash trying to save as many decorations as I could.
Legit, definitely. But yeah, kind of to return to a previous point, these attitudes hurt everybody. They don't just hurt women, they don't just hurt people of color, they don't just hurt LGBTQ people, they hurt everybody. Toxic masculinity, racism, all that hurts everybody. So like, why couldn't you just like hang up direction? Sorry, decorations. English, and us. Yeah. Relatable. Very relatable. Tara, I don't know how much time we have. I don't want to keep everybody here all night.
Now we can go all night.
I gotta go home sometime. There are tasks there.
And I gotta sleep up with my classes tomorrow.
I was gonna throw a quick question of what do you think about the tedious lab? And more importantly, how what keeps using it out of context?
I'm sorry, what do we
What do you think about the tedious lab? And more importantly, how quickly uses it out of context from Final Fantasy X?
Oh, Titus.
No, it's Titus. It's Titus.
I didn't know that.
It's Titus, yeah. European vowels. Okay, as much as I love Final Fantasy X, I did not love Titus as an antagonist. I really did. However, I can give him credit for one thing. He has mad respect for Yuna.
He does.
Like, dude's a feminist. I mean, he's a whiny rat, but definitely a feminist. He's very, very cool.
He's in touch with his feelings.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, yeah.
Yes.
He's very sensitive.
Yeah.
I probably should describe him as a whiny rat. That seems a little insensitive to me. But no, overall, pretty solid dude where the ladies are concerned. So,
How do you feel about 10
no.
Exactly.
No, that's a whole lot of no. Let's not pretend it never happened. Anything else? No? Yes, no?
Can you do your best impression of the tedious lab? You can say no.
I know! I'm just like, no, I'm not really great at impressions. I can sing an aria. Impressions? No, impressions, please.
That sounds like Providence.
Right?
If I went back in time and told you one of the questions you would be asked for this presentation was, can you do the fetus lap? Would you have believed me?
Actually, yeah.